What were we going about?
Nazis built the pyramids, the aliens started the Holocaust. It's just...
We're talking about serial killers today. They're ghosts.
It's only going to get worse from here. I'm actually really curious. I want to ask you this. So, over in other countries, if you get approached like prostitutes and stuff like that, or workers, do they do the whole "me love you long time" kind of thing?
I've never been approached like that.
You never had the Full Metal Jacket experience?
No. And she never said it was too buku.
No. Oh, usually it's too tuna.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, welcome everybody to the Calling Couple. Sage will not be joining me today, but I will be here. I'm your host, Gage, and I am joined along with a good friend, and I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Brandon, 13-year vet, Army. I was mechanic for a while, and now I'm just doing life.
Hell yeah, man. So today's theme is going to be veterans and talking about military and stuff like that for everybody to know. First off, I've never served, but I am a huge supporter of anybody that has served or in the military, and I honestly want to say thank you for everybody that is there or has been there. And if I happen to see you out and about, I will buy you a beer because that's just my thing. That's my way of giving back, and if you ever need anything, I'm always right there for you. But today I've got a friend of mine come on here to kind of walk me through some of the typical questions of what somebody who hasn't served, what they can understand to know a little bit more about our veterans and stuff that have come home and trying to help them out or be supportive to them at least.
Sorry.
No, that you're good. That ain't gonna hurt nothing.
Well, first of all, thank you for appreciation and all that and support.
Mm-hmm.
Times change, so the way that people show support is a lot different. A lot of us we don't want it.
Right.
I can't say we don't want support. It's just when we get approached, and thank you. I don't know. It's not something we look for, and it kind of catches us off guard, especially with the way society's going now.
Right.
Everybody's anti-military and all these soft people.
Yeah, these pussies are the ones that are like, oh no, I'm trying to help you to benefit you, but it's actually doing more damage kind of shit.
Yeah. But I'll always take a free beer though.
Right. And that's anybody, but the ones that earned it are the ones that are either our first responders or our military. That's the way I look at it.
I'm a huge fan of first responders, and I mean the police especially. I feel like they got more of a dangerous job than what we had. We're put over there. We know what we're gonna do, but what they have to go through every day.
Mm-hmm.
They think they might be pulling over somebody that they've seen 100 times, and next thing you know, they catch a bullet.
Yeah, that one day of hair in the ass and things change. Let's see. Trying to think of a right way to start this off. Okay, so for like me, I wanted to join the military. Like, what is something that when you joined was credentials that you honestly needed to have to go into basic and sign and join and things? Something that somebody that right now is about to turn 18, wanting to join, what they could look forward to or know how to approach it to where they can get in.
Well, it was different whenever I joined because I joined right after 9/11. And if you had a heartbeat and you could talk, then they were taking you. Now that we're out of wartime, they're getting a little more stringent. My cousin took the ASVAB 6 times just to score high enough to be able to get in. But whenever I joined, it didn't matter.
Right.
You could just get in. My advice for someone that's gonna join is try to think long term. Everybody sees Rambo and they're like, oh, I want to do this. I want to just go out and just shoot people. Where does that put you when you get out? What's the follow on for that?
Right.
And again, I'll probably bring up my cousin a lot, but he joined 111 Bravo, and now he's struggling, trying to find stuff to do afterwards. And his mental capacity now he can't do a lot of stuff just because he's pretty jacked up in the head now. But someone's going to join, think of something, follow on. You know, because anything you do in the military is serving. Especially if you get sent over to a combat zone, you might be a mechanic right now. 10 minutes later, you're in a gun truck. You know, so don't let the hood get in the way of making a smart decision.
Right. Basically, don't think that. Well, I'm here as this, and that's all I'm doing. You might have to. Hell, you probably would know this better than I would, but you might end up being just a guy who's being a journalist there, and all of a sudden you got to be a medic at the same time. If you get confronted, you never know what you're going to be doing, so you always got to be on your toes, I would say.
Yeah. Something whenever you're going through basic, they always tell you, you know, no matter what your MOS is.
And what is MOS for those that don't know that?
Your military occupational specialty. So
okay.
So your job.
Right.
They'll always tell you you're an 11 Bravo first. That's why when you go to basic, you're taught how to shoot, move, and communicate. You're not taught, you know, anything about what your job is going to be. First, you're taught how to operate, you know, and how to shoot. So no matter what you're doing, you can be called on anytime to get out there and fill a seat in the truck, you know, kick a door down. You just always got to be there, be ready for that.
Now, see, like when you said you joined was right after 9/11, which I actually talked to a recruiter. Because where I wanted to go was Globes and Anchors, which is the Marines. My dad was Army, and after knowing a lot about what he dealt with and the way he came home, it was just something I didn't want to do. My cousin was Navy, and I was more of like, well, we got different branches. I would like to be on frontline. That's where I always want to be. I'm always that type of person that likes to be in the middle of the fight, at least at the front. And so that's kind of where I looked at. And I did talk to a recruiter. I just happened to see him at Walmart one day when I was like 16. And this was right after I dropped out of high school. And I saw him and I was like, hey, man, I really want to know what to do to join. And he was like, well, graduate high school and come on in. And I was like, well, I've already dropped out. And he was like, well, at least get your GED. And I was like, really? Like, I'm wanting to enlist all this and that. Like, why do I need all that? And he's like, well, you're going to have that because that's our new standard, especially after Bush put in the whole No Child Left Behind Act. We want people to have an education when they come in because we offer college programs and stuff like that you're going to need that qualification to pursue more. And I never ended up getting my GED or any of that because I ended up pursuing a different path in my life. But it was one of those that I did want to join. And I even thought of like, what about the draft? Because even though I knew of the draft, that's how my dad got enlisted. And all that kind of stuff. I was so mad that the draft wasn't around and they weren't willing to take an able body that was like right there at the door, like, I'll go.
Yeah.
It kind of hurt, but at the same time I understood that, hey, that's policy. There's nothing I can do. But that I think that would be something that I would advise anybody that's listening to this in school and stuff, get your education before you go in, because I mean, I right now I still could. That's something that I do want to point out that I've learned over the years from talking with other military personnel and stuff, is that it doesn't matter how old you're getting. I mean, there sure is a certain age limit that they'll stop you at, but if you have messed up like I have, you still can go and get your GED or get your high school diploma and still enlist. Most people that are listening to this know of Chris Kyle, of course, American Sniper, but he was 35 when he joined. When he enlisted, so it's not too late to go do what you got to do, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the cutoff is 35, 37.
Is it?
Somewhere around there. But a funny story about the Marines. Before 9/11, I'd just gotten married. I got married at 17. So when I was 18, me and my wife were at the mall and was walking by recruiter's office. So I walked in and, you know, trying to figure out, hey, I want to join the Marines. What do I need to do? And I, too, am a high school dropout. Got my GED right after I dropped out, but that's the only way I wouldn't get in trouble, you know. And walked in, was talking to the Marines, and he asked when I graduate. And I said, well, I dropped out, got my GED. And he said, yeah, we don't take your kind. And I said, what do you mean? He says, if you quit school, then what are you going to do out there? You know, when it gets tough, you're going to quit. And it pissed me off. You know,
yeah.
I was mad. and because he didn't know my situation,
Right.
none of that. But I mean, now that I look back on it, I'm like, okay, I can understand that.
See, I never got that approach, and that's actually a good point. Of course, he didn't know the situation I would have at that time either.
You know, I waited, and then 9/11 happened, and said, fuck it, let's go. Yeah, I went from a roughneck, you know, and doing meth. I was pretty rough time, you know. 127 pounds, nothing but a head and ribs.
And that's actually very scrawny for a man of your stature. I mean, you're a small guy to be 127 pounds. Holy shit.
Yeah, I look like a toothpick with an olive on top of it, you know, because I got a big ass head. But that was probably the roughest part of going to basic was detoxing.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
because I say I was a meth head. It was bad, you know.
Then of course you got your instructors at you all the time, and
and then trying to get out there and run. You know, I was 22. You know, married, 2 kids. I'd go work 12 hours a day and then go home, and you know, so I wasn't in no soldier shape. You know?
Right.
But so that was pretty rough trying to get that all out of my system, and best move I ever made. You know, I ain't touched that stuff since, and if I ever see it, I'll probably break my neck running away from it.
Well, that's actually really cool, man. Like, and we've only known each other for the past year, and getting to hear some of this is actually kind of nice. And I'm not gonna pry into too much. Like, I'll let you talk whatever you want to talk about, but like that would be a very rough deal. But it also gives people an insight of like, doesn't matter what you're doing if you want something better, it is there to be opportune to achieve it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, it was rough, and I don't wish it upon anybody. But I mean, anything out there in life, you can get. It's how do you want to push yourself to get it? So it's all on you.
Could I at least ask, like, when you came in, of course, you went through training and you became private. Like, when you had left, what was your ranking then?
I was staff sergeant, E6.
Damn.
I mean, I slow played it. When I first got in, I was, you know, just everything was go. So I got promoted to E5 right at 2 years being in, which is pretty quick. And then I got comfortable. You know, I liked the position I was in. I liked working with my guys right next to them, and so I just pushed off, you know, trying to get promoted. And I had a good buddy. We were both, you know, E5s. He looked at me one day and said, I'll get it before you. Because we had both been doing the same thing, you know, just comfortable. And I beat him by a month. Got promoted before him. But then I turned down the E7 board twice, because it's all just send your file up, you know, and they just look at your packet and see what you've done. And I didn't submit twice because I knew I was getting out. I'm happy where I left off.
That, honestly, that's awesome. That really is so awesome that you worked your way up to that, because some people don't even really make it up to that far. They kind of retire at a just private.
Well, so in order to retire as a private nowadays, you know, back in NOM and stuff like that, it was different,
right,
you know, back then. But I mean, now the only way you retire as a private is if you get busted down because you've done something horribly bad.
Oh, wow.
So I got out in 2015. Right before that, they had started what they call RCP, which I believe was a retention control point. So if you didn't make a certain rank by a certain number of years in service, then they'd kick you out. I mean, it wasn't a bad discharge,
right?
Know, but you're just like, well, you're not cutting it, so here you go. So you have to meet certain ranks, but I mean, you can retire as a staff sergeant. Don't know if you can retire as E5 anymore. I don't know what the RCP is for that, but anything below that, they'll send you home.
And I see a lot of my knowledge comes from the way my family was, which my dad served in Korea, and so a lot of it's the older stuff. A lot of this newer stuff, I have no clue, so I try not to act like I do know it, because fuck, if I say the wrong thing, I mean, I might be just belittled or laughed at just for that. So it's like if I do mention some stuff, it's more of what I've learned from my dad and the Vietnam vets that I've sat and talked with over the years, and so anything post 9/11, I'm really fresh to it.
Yeah.
Like I try to keep up the best I can, especially when they start talking code of MOS and stuff like that. Shit, you got me there, because I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, something that really does irritate me, but it's got to irritate you more. Now, back in the days of my dad and the Vietnam vets, even some of the Desert Storm vets and stuff like that, it's been going on for a long time, especially from World War I, World War II. It's just not as popularized as it is now, because social media and all that kind of stuff wasn't really there. I mean, unless you caught the person doing it, you wouldn't know. But what is your stance on stolen valor? Because that is still something that happens to this day. And how can people look out for something of that nature?
I'd go to jail.
And that is totally in right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure I've seen people around, and just don't pay attention, but I've seen some of that stuff on Facebook and all that. People in there wearing Uggs just because they're tan.
Yeah.
And with the uniform and wearing an American flag on their chests. And
oh man, you would have loved the ones I watched just last night, because I was getting ready for a lot of this stuff, especially bringing up stolen valor, and I was seeing this one dude wearing jeans with a flat jacket, and he had 5 American flag patches all over his jacket with a bunch of different other patches that, I mean, don't know if they were Soviet patches or if they were if they were the right branch patches to have, or like, I didn't know, but it was so clusterfucked. And he was sitting there like, yeah, I went over there in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I served and I shot these guys. And the soldier who's recording him is like, really? So why do you have so many fucking flags? Where's your rank? What the fuck is all this bullshit? And I mean, just watching something. And there was another guy that was in full fucking uniform except his shoes, and his uniform was slacky as hell. Mm-hmm. But he had blue Nikes on at the bottom, and his excuse was, "No, we're covert. It makes me run faster, all this and that." And I'm like, I'm sorry, but isn't your pack supposed to be like almost 40 to 60, 80 pounds, and come on.
Covert, huh? Jesus.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, I mean, I was getting a little sauced up, and so it was like, oh fuck. But seeing these, I was just like, I'm not military, but I can definitely tell you're full of shit.
Oh, yeah.
And especially being so close to Tinker Air Force Base, mm-hmm. and the air base up in Enid, being so close to all these bases, seeing all these soldiers traveling through, you can tell how they're dressed, how they look, and how they present themselves, especially in uniform. To seeing some of these guys on these videos, it's like, no, that's just wrong. Like,
well, some of the videos that I've seen, I mean, even if they look put together, you can usually identify them by the information they're willing to just throw out there. Mm-hmm. I haven't met many vets that start a conversation open with, yeah, I was in Afghanistan and I shot 4 people and doing this, and mm-hmm. that's just not how we operate. We don't just throw that information out there. And
yeah,
some of them, that's what they lead with. It's like, yeah, no.
And that's actually a good point, because I want to say about 7 months ago, I was at a bar, and I was there with a buddy of mine, and we were just conversating, and at the other end of the bar, there was these 2 older guys that, like, they were claiming to be Vietnam vets, but they claimed that after their conversations of, like, look at them 2 punks down at the end of the bar talking about me and my buddy. And they were like, man, we killed motherfuckers for them to act like this, all this and that. We weren't really doing anything. We were having a good time. Of course, we were a little sauce, but we weren't fucking going around smacking chicks' asses and doing that. We were just having a good time. And that's what they led off with. It was like, we killed so many people. You remember killing all these motherfuckers, and we got to come home to this bullshit. And I'm just like, well, for one, every military person I've ever met has never once gotten drunk and talked about that. If anything, they refuse to talk about that because they don't want to bring that shit up. My dad especially did not want to talk about that shit. We caught the brunt end of the opposite effect of that, which PTSD at his time was nowhere near around. I think it was battle fatigue. No, it was shell shock, because you had battle fatigue in World War One, shell shock, and then it became something else during Vietnam. But we ended up having to deal with that in my family of growing up. So to me, like, even talking with some of the other military guys that I've talked to after that incident, they're just like, I don't know if that's, I mean, they might, but it's very rare to find anybody that really wants to just go to a bar and brag about that shit. Yeah. And I'm just like, that's kind of what I thought, because it was starting to piss me off to where I was about to be like, dude, I know that you served, but I've done nothing to piss you off. I have no interaction with you. Like, why are you trying to threaten my life because you're just upset? If that's the case, then I'll show you what my dad showed me, and we'll see what happens. But it ended up, those two ended up causing such a ruckus that the bartender was like, "Hey, y'all need to fucking go. If you're gonna be sitting here threatening people's lives, you need to get the hell out of here, because this is that no one's done anything to y'all." And but yeah, it was definitely an odd situation that I got thrown in. That I was like, you want to talk about the people you killed? Most guys that I know, even medics, that I knew a army medic that never shot his rifle, but he had been shot, and he was like, dude, I know guys that have killed people that don't talk about that shit. Yeah. And so that's kind of something that I wanted to, that when you said that was like, wow, yeah, because I've seen somebody do that, and I'm just like, is that a common thing, or is that just for those that have done it, that have built that relationship, that they talk about it? Or,
well, when you get around other vets, then that type of conversation flows. It's not just, hey, I'm Brandon, I shot this many people and done this. Yeah, how are you? Right. Of course, through time, me and my cousin get together, and that's all we talk about. Because that's our therapy, talking to each other. My ex-wife, we were married for over 20 years. She never knew anything. It's just stuff we just don't talk about it. And the people that do, despite some of the operators, the big guys on YouTube, and some of them I wouldn't mess with. Oh yeah,
yeah. There's some of those guys that even just them talking about shit, I'm like, man, I don't want to cross you.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta love them though. I don't know. We don't enjoy getting into it because it gets the feels all, all started, and takes you back to places you're trying to get away from.
And see, and that's something that I noticed, because my dad was 18 when he was drafted in to go serve in Korea, which I believe the war started in 1952, somewhere in there. And he was 74 when he passed away. I was 18. And I remember before he passed away, of course, he was not a good man. I mean, his time really fucked him up when he came home, to where he was even fighting Vietnam vets because he thought they weren't up to his status. But he also, like, I remember trying to talk to him just about his time in there, not really asking him, like, have you killed anybody or anything, because I learned at a very young age, you don't ask that. That is something you do not ask. And I highly suggest anybody listening to this, don't just go up and be like, how many have you killed? Because you might end up actually snapping them into a PTSD or a flashback that might get you fucking hurt. So don't do that. And plus, you're being very disrespectful.
Yeah, it's pretty damn rude.
It really is. But and I remember trying to talk to him about his time in the service, and even just asking him, like, what was it like? You could see the look in his eye changed, where it was one of those, hey, never mind, I'm not, I don't need to know, kind of back off, because it was one of those, you could see he was about to turn into the same guy that we all knew of his drunken nights, and it was not a place that he needed to be. So yeah, it was definitely one that I learned that a lot of them guys don't really want to talk about that shit. And I didn't know anything about his military career until after he died, and I got to hear it from his brother. And his brother started telling me a little bit about it, my uncle, and I'm just like, I don't agree with what he did growing up at all, but I can at least understand what made that happen.
Yeah. So I've got an aunt that I haven't talked to in, 8 years, 10 years, all because I got back from my second trip to Iraq, and that's all she could ask. I'm over there trying to visit my grandma who's sick, and the only thing, hey, how many people have you killed? What did you see? It just wouldn't shut up about it, and we don't talk. I just refuse to even put myself in that situation.
Yeah, and something I could put out for everybody that is listening to this: you do not have to be afraid to go up and talk to a soldier. You do not have to be afraid to talk to a vet. By no means, but just be cautious of what your question is, or just, if anything, buy them a beer. Be like, hey, thank you for your service and all that, and they're probably going to initiate the conversation from there. And just tread lightly. Don't be fucking blunt about the shit of like, hey man, and unless you build that relationship with that person, just like you would with a friend, you just build it up. But don't just straight up be like, man, you killed so many people, here you go, and they may just been like, dude, I was just a computer analyst, I never actually saw action. So like, you don't want to be disrespectful. Be very, very respectful, but at least show them some gratitude of, even if you don't buy them a beer, just a simple thank you, actually, I've heard goes a long ways for those that have served.
Oh yeah, it does. Like I said, I get embarrassed every time somebody says something. It's just like I joined to better myself and my family, and also because they took down our towers and killed a bunch of people. So probably wasn't the smartest thing, to join in the time of war, but I just felt like that's what I needed to do. But I get embarrassed if someone comes up and says thank you or anything. But one thing that strikes me, or like gets me just furious, Memorial Day. So you don't go up and thank a vet for his service on Memorial Day.
I have learned that, and I learned it the hard way.
that will, yeah. I mean, usually most vets around that time they're already in a bad place, and the just happy Memorial Day, that I can't do it.
Yeah. And if you guys want to see something of that nature, something I do every Memorial Day, and something that I've actually got to be a part of, Memorial Day here in my town, everybody goes to the cemetery. Everybody. We all go out there. We all, Sage's family is military, and we have her family that it was military that is buried out there. We go out there every year, and it is amazing to see how many vets that will come out and just walk. And we do a huge ceremony for everybody on that day, and it is such a great sight. A few years ago, we had a soldier that was lost over in World War II that was here in Oklahoma, who was from my town. They found his remains and actually was able to get him brought back.
Wow.
And it was so awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was sad that he lost his life and it took so long for him to get back here, but it was an amazing ceremony because they had reached out to all military and bikers to come and be there. And of course, I'm friends with so many people in my town of being in the biker community. They were like, hey, we're doing this. We would love to have you out. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll be there. And got to show up, and we laid his remains to rest, and we had the full taps. We had everybody from all different branches sitting there, and we ended up actually riding behind the vehicle that was carrying his remains. We all rode in behind him. Of course, all the U.S. Army and Marines and Navy bikers were ahead of us, and we all followed behind, but we all got the trail in to do that. And it was just such an amazing ceremony that I got to be a part of, even though I never served. But it was just so honorable to be in that presence, to be able to lay this guy to rest that had served his country at the time 74 years previous. Now it's almost 80 years ago.
That's insane. It's insane they're still finding people.
It really is.
It's amazing. I'm glad times have changed. People are getting home sooner.
Yes.
And it's a sad deal. I mean, what they had to go through. You know, every conflict has its own set of issues that follow it. You know, I couldn't imagine what they went through in Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
I can't even just fathom that. So I went a couple weeks ago to a bar, sitting down. It's 12 o'clock, you know, noon.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I'm an alcoholic, just to let y'all know.
No. Alcohol enthusiast, make it classy.
But sitting there, and there was an old dude sitting down at the end, and he was wearing a Marine's jacket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all different branches, we all give each other shit.
Right.
But, you know, he's got the Vietnam veteran hat on, and I'm sitting there drinking. I'm trying to look at him. He takes his jacket off, and he's got a biker vest on,
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam veteran, and U.S. Marine Corps. And so had to buy him a couple drinks. And we never said a word. It was just a look, you know.
Right.
You could tell. And it's good to see him. Good to see him still, you know. I mean, he looked great, you know. I don't know what he did then. I don't know what his job was, but he looked like he was doing all right.
So you're saying that it's really easy to find somebody, like if you're out and about, you can just tell by a person's stance, presence, and all that to know, yeah, they have that demeanor of somebody who had either served or seen action and stuff like that.
Yeah. We pick up on stuff, you know, just cues, the way they're standing, where they're standing, where they're sitting, you know, and you can usually tell if they're armed, you know. And a lot of us, we like wearing these patriotic shirts.
Yeah, the grunt styles and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this was a present. I'm usually not a fan of grunt style too much, but it's fashion, I guess. And, you know, I don't know. I like wearing shit with flags on it, you know.
Right.
Got flags all over my car and inside my car. It's a little overboard, I think, but
no. You seen my back porch. You seen what I have up there, and
yeah. It's funny. I was sitting there thinking about I went to BNOC, which is, you know, basic non-commissioned officer course. At the time, I was stationed in the Netherlands, so they flew me over to the States. It was a Friday night, you know, so we'd all go out drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this little bar in this hotel, and from the hours like 5 to 10 or something, beer was really, really cheap. So we'd start the night off there, you know, and just getting hammered. That was up by Aberdeen. So Aberdeen Proving Grounds, they test missiles and they test, you know, the vehicles and all this stuff. So we're sitting in there, and I hear this guy. He's sitting there talking, getting loud, you know, and I'm already pretty drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about he was a tester for vehicles, and this is when they're coming out with the new style vehicles that would take IEDs, you know, and disperse the energy so it wouldn't, you know, the people inside wouldn't get too jacked up.
Real quick, IED, for those that don't know what that stands for.
Improvised explosive device, you know, just a homemade bomb.
Oh, okay.
So he was talking, and he said some things that triggered me, got me a little upset.
Oh man.
About well, you don't know what I've seen and all this. Okay, the guy had never served. He's always been, you know, there. So the stuff that he was talking about was the videos that he's seen.
Oh shit.
And
yeah, I served because I watched all these movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
And he was talking about, you know, having PTSD and having, you know, nightmares and all this. And I get it. I mean, some people watching stuff, you know, it affects them mentally. But the way he was presenting himself, you know, it's a bunch of soldiers in here,
mm-hmm.
you know. And it was like he was just trying to kind of glorify it for his own, you know, trying to boost himself up. Needless to say, you know, because I'm not a very big guy.
Mm-hmm.
A couple bouncers can carry me pretty easily.
Right. But I'm pretty sure hand to hand you can hold your own.
Oh, I mean, I have fun with it, but
The way my dad put it was, there's no such thing as rule in a fight. You just win.
yeah. But even if you win, it still hurts.
Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
Nobody's really a winner in a fight.
Rambo was a fictional character. You're not walking away with just a couple scratches and still carrying on a battle.
No, hell no. Yeah, I got ejected from that bar very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
When people try to, downplay certain things to make themselves, I don't know if it makes them feel better about themselves. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but I mean, he found out real quick that he might want to be quiet and find a different bar or something.
Oh man. Well, that's almost the same lines of because I had been a part of a motorcycle club, and something that I learned, which no one that's listening is going to know anything about my motorcycle club history, because that's none of your fucking business. But I did serve, or I not serve. I did ride with the club for a while, and I learned a lot about the atmosphere. And what a lot of people don't realize is that motorcycle clubs were made from the military aspect. They were completely designed from those that came back from World War II and all that, and miss the camaraderie and all that kind of stuff to build their own little faction back home. And something that a lot of people, especially new riders and stuff that are wanting to get into clubs, if you never served, don't act like you have, because these guys that have will call you on your shit real quick. But you have those that you could tell the difference between somebody who is pretending that they know something and the ones that actually do know what's going on. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a fucking pro when I was in the club to know every fucking ins and outs, but I knew enough to know better than to go around and be like, yeah, I'm a 1%er and all that. One I never was.
Yeah.
Like you just don't do that. I mean, that'd be almost like someone sitting here saying, yeah, I'm a staff sergeant and never even fucking served 1 minute in the military. Like you'd be like, come on, that's some bullshit.
Yeah. My favorite of the vets that didn't make it through basic training. I've seen quite a few of them wash out, get hurt, sent out, or they be doing something, find something medically wrong, and end up having to get sent home. And I feel bad for them because they wanted to, they wanted to serve.
Right.
And, to get partway through training and then get hurt or, whatever. And through my course of, my military career, chaptering people out, kicking them out of the military. And then they go around, I'm this and I'm that. And it's like, yeah, but are you? I mean, really?
Like, thank you for trying or doing what you did,
yeah.
But you didn't get all the way.
Yeah.
For like the way I am able to break a lot of this stuff down, especially when I talk to military, is with my experiences in the club of, you have your prospecting phase, which is your basic training. You are going through all that to kind of see if you're able to cut it out and make it through all the way. And then once you become a patch, you work your way up to even higher if you're able to. If not, you still just do what you got to do for what your belief is. And that also stems back from a military aspect of clubs of, we have our beliefs, our goals, and what we stand for. And same with anybody that is serving in any branch of the military. Of, this is who we are, and we're serving our nation, and this is what it is.
Yeah, the motorcycle clubs. Never been in one. I'm not saying I never wanted to be in one. It's just life didn't line up with it, and I've looked into an association, not a club. Talking to some people that were in it, it's a little too political, and it kind of took the fun out of riding.
Right.
And, I don't want to lose my love for riding because of trying to be in an association or a club, and I don't agree with it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But the brotherhood, and I mean that as far as like the camaraderie and the the family is what I mean. Yeah, that's the thing that's missed the most, about serving, is just having all your brothers and sisters. Anything happen, you can just get on the phone, call a list of anybody, and they'll show up to help you. But whenever you get out, you kind of lose that.
Well, and something that I've learned, and something that I can relate a little bit with in the motorcycle community, especially if you're a club member, the biggest thing that I ran into a lot was the people that would come up to me and be like, "Oh, so you guys are like Sons of Anarchy or the Mayans," I'm a person that has sat down with one percenters and being in front of and being in situations where I really honestly was like, I'm not going home tonight, but I've got to do what I got to do. And it's definitely one of those that when you see people that are doing this whole like stolen valor, or especially like lone wolves, oh man, I fucking hate those guys that wear the lone wolf 3-piece patch and all that, because yeah, I get it, you want to be making a statement and all that, but you're really trying too hard to be like, oh yeah, I'm a biker, but I don't want anything to do with the clubs and all that. Well, then why are you wearing that? You don't have to wear that. Like, and that would be the same aspect of somebody wearing a uniform, like, oh, I support my military, but I don't want anything to really do with it, but I want the respect. And it's like, it's something that I've learned even in the motorcycle community, is that even just in my basic life, respect is earned and you have to fucking earn it. And if you earn it, great. But you're constantly earning it, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. You have to earn that shit. And that's the way it should be. But you get these guys that really try to take, like, oh, I went on a poker run with a club, and you know I'm one of them. When no, you're not. You're like,
well, you know, I went to Lawton, I don't know, a couple months ago. Well, shit, I guess it was longer than that. It was last summer. And had to go to the Harley shop, buy a part that broke off, you know.
Oh, I remember you telling me this story. Yeah.
Fucking, damn Harleys. But so I show up and they're having, you know, a huge gathering of all different clubs. So since I bought a part in a Harley shop with all these club members, am I a club member? Can I take a pic? No.
That'd be like me going into a surplus store. Like, I bought some paracord, so I am airborne now. Like, no, come on, that's not how it works.
No. I don't even wear leathers of any sort, just because, you know, I don't want to get accused of trying to do anything.
I love wearing leather, and even if it's leather with patches and stuff, I wear it because it just kind of shows who I am. For those that don't know or that are just seeing me, they'd be like, oh, okay, that's what it, and it's usually shit that has to deal with my heritage and stuff like that. It's nothing to do with like, oh, I'm the baddest motherfucker in the room kind of patch. No, because I don't need that. Like, if you want to know, just fuck around and find out. Like, that would probably be the most I would have as a patch of FAFO, just so people can understand of fuck around and find out, and that's exactly what you'll find out, or what you'll get. But other than that, it's more the most patch that I wear on my vest nowadays, and God, that's something else too, is don't call your vest, if you wear one, a cut. Because it is not.
Yeah, the cut's the patch, right?
Yeah, well, the cut's your entire uniform in a motorcycle club.
Okay.
And that would be your right to wear that. I mean, even as a prospect, it is your prospect vest, or just still nobody. But when you become a full patch, that's when it becomes your cut of your life, of what you're willing to sacrifice for. So I've ran into so many people that are like, yeah, and they're just wearing a vest and like, yeah, my cut and all. And I'm like, calm down, all right. You just got a T-shirt on for me right now. You haven't earned a cut. And there would be the same kind of shit of me coming in with a Black Rifle T-shirt and be like, yeah, man, like this is my military shit, and you just be like, come on, they make good coffee, but you ain't there yet.
Yeah, I love their coffee. That's all I drink.
But no, and that's something that really does drive me up the wall. It's like, if you don't know, it is okay to be ignorant going into those. I am very ignorant when it comes into the military stuff, but I love to learn. I love to talk to guys like you and others that have served and do that kind of stuff, because it's fun. And especially being in a motorcycle club, I've been surrounded by so many that have served. Not a lot of people can handle it. Not a lot of people can handle just the atmosphere of being around that fast pace, never know what's going to happen, or dealing with individuals that have their own stuff that they've dealt with. But it's it was fun to get to know so many guys that it really built my love and respect for the military even more than just being an average Joe, because a lot of these guys have seen combat that especially when they would get drunk, you never know. I've had nights where guys would get shit faced and all of a sudden they would have an episode to where I'm having to fucking disarm them just to make sure they're not about to do something stupid. Like if they were wanting to fight, by all means, but sometimes they wouldn't even know where they were.
Yeah.
And that's where it became very scary, and I'd be by myself with them trying to disarm this guy who knows how to fucking take me on. But luckily they were so drunk that I was able to get their firearm away and calm them down. But and something I did learn, I don't know if it's effective across the board, but something, especially with a member that I was with for a long time, he would go into an episode and he would have, especially when he get drunk and somebody would make a noise or a sound would trigger him. A lot of the guys that were there were like me, that didn't serve. They don't know some of that stuff, but with my family's background and my dad and all that kind of stuff, I kind of picked up on cues of when somebody is starting to show those signs. And there was one night he went into a full episode. I mean, he was back in Iraq. Like, he had no idea where the fuck he was. And it was very fucking, it was really heartbreaking for me to try to stop him because he had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I started trying to use keys that would help him, and I would just tell him, "You're stateside." I would say his name, like, "You're stateside. You're home. You're here," and it actually did work. But I don't suggest that for everybody because that may not work. But it did work for him, and luckily it did, because when he calmed down, he was like, "Did I hurt anybody?" And I had to really. It is very difficult trying to do something like that, especially if you've never been in those moments before. And if you've never done that, just get out of the way. Just move. Don't try to do anything. But I'm too stubborn or bullheaded to let somebody suffer. So
That's good.
I did. I was like, "You're stateside. You're home. You're safe. It's okay." To where when he came out of it, after he sobered up, he called me the next day and he said, "Thank you so much, because it could have been really bad." And I was like, "I know." And I was willing to stand right there in front of you, because if you were pulling your gun, at least you were taking me first, someone who was willing to help you, instead of you taking somebody else.
You know, it's we were talking earlier about things have changed, you know, it's like every war comes with its own you know, issues. My first trip to Iraq was 2004, so damn, next February would be 20 years.
God, that was the first time I got laid, was that year. Like, Jesus.
Jeez, you're slow. Anyways.
No, I'm just that young. God.
No, we still got people that are taking their own life from, you know, 19, 20 years ago. And you never know what somebody's going through.
You really don't.
And it sucks. It's really bad. You know, I was talking about my cousin earlier. You know, I went to Iraq and he went to Afghanistan. The second time I was in Iraq was his first trip to Afghanistan. And he was an 11 Bravo, you know, so they're out there, you know, face to face. And he's got some pretty big issues. My step grandpa, he was a Vietnam vet. He passed away a couple years ago, but my cousin would always call him, you know, and try to vent to him anytime he was having problems. He was in his bathtub with his 45 in his mouth, you know, and he pulled the curtain back, you know, tucked it all in, that way he wouldn't make a mess.
Right.
And he was done. And for some odd reason, my grandpa called him while he was laying in the bathtub. And that's the only reason why he's still here, you know. But if you go talk to him, you know, you see him in a store and you just talk to him, you'd never know. But it's a battle every day, you know. And I mean, luckily he's getting better. He's found outlets, things to take up his time, and, you know, keep them thinking straight. But
And that is great. That really is, because I mean I've seen the statistics from I think it was like 7-8 years ago of how many that are taking themselves because of what they've had to do, and it is really, really sad to see that these are our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers that are having to deal with this stuff. Guys, by all means, if you can help. But if you don't know what you're doing, try to put somebody that you can in their direction, because the rate of suicide for these guys is just, it's immensely unbearable. But a lot of times, all they need is just a phone call or just somebody to talk to.
that's it. I mean, it's easy to try to drown your sorrows, in whiskey, and that's my drink of choice. But a lot of the vets that have issues, we have one thing in common, and it's addictive personalities. And so you find something to kind of make you feel good at the moment, and then you constantly do it, and that's how we turn into alcoholics, and some turn into drug addicts, which is sad. But yeah, if you know a vet and you know that they have some issues, it might just be we're looking for exciting stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things is the adrenaline is gone.
Yeah.
And stuff that we used to get all excited about, we don't get. It ain't that fun anymore. Your adrenaline don't get up there like what it did when you were in combat. Because you're in combat, you're living off adrenaline. It's always going. Even whenever you're relaxed, you're still, your body's still pumped up. Take that vet and say, hey, let's go do something. Let's go do something fun. Do something fast. That's why so many of us jump on bikes.
Yeah.
Because.
And that is something that I've noticed is a lot of times it may be just a simple cruise, but the thrill of knowing that you have no control of what's happening on that road is an amazing adrenaline. And as somebody who's never had that kind of experience of being adrenalized all the time like that, but to be on the bike, it is so exhilarating, because there's a lot of times I get in trouble because I'm going 120, just enjoying the feel of, if this is my last moment, this is what I want.
Yep.
And so, yeah, something simple of that nature. I'm the same way of, like, when me and you met, and I knew that you were into bikes and stuff. I'm like, let's go for a fucking ride. Like, let's do that.
We still haven't done that.
We haven't done it. we have not done it, and we are going to, because our riding season is just about to kick off. So it's definitely going to be one where we're going to do it. And I'm going to tell you, if you're riding with me, keep up, because I ride fast.
I can ride. I
get in trouble a lot for how fast I ride. But no, it is definitely something that I would, like you're saying, I would suggest to people, like, give them something. Or just talk to them or any of that. But if you can offer them of, like, hey, I'm about to go for a ride this week and you want to go, gives them something to look forward to, and it also gives them something to exhilarate themselves, to have that bliss of moment, to kind of capture what they're missing at the moment.
Yeah. And a lot of vets, they kind of recluse. They just want to be, just leave me alone. I'm going to do my own thing. And I mean, everybody's got their outlet. You just got to know the person and try to connect with them on something. But I mean, adrenaline is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah,
it's better than Coke, better than anything.
Man, I've been strung out on drugs for a long time until I met my wife. She helped me get sober, and yeah, you can't. It is definitely a high that you have to find a way to replace, and adrenaline is definitely one that you just can't beat, because it's so natural, and it really, to me, it outdoes all the other drugs. That's why I like living a very fast-paced lifestyle, because it's just, you never know.
Yeah.
And it's
So I went to the VA for medical appointment. They issued me. They prescribed me some pills, and they said, all right, this is gonna flood your brain with serotonin. And I'm a dumbass from Oklahoma, so all right, break that down. And they said, you're gonna take these and you're just gonna be overly happy, about everything. I was like, okay. that's new. And they said, but you're going to find out that things that usually excite you aren't going to be that exciting because you're already going to be happy. I'm like, that don't make no damn sense, you know. So
you're like, is it going to affect my dick? No, it's going to make it better.
No, it actually that was a side effect.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they would have to prescribe Viagra because you're not going to be so excited to have sex. And I'm like,
well, isn't that the opposite? Like, I want to excite and fuck at the same time. What are you doing?
That would be depressing.
Yeah.
You know, so now I'm going to be happy but sad at the same time.
And it's like, I'm happy, but let me take another pill because I got to get something else happy.
Yeah.
So ED is a side effect.
Yeah. So I've taken it a couple times just to, I don't know, just to get happy for a little bit, I guess.
Right.
And it's legal because it's prescribed to me.
Well, yeah. As long as the doctor signs it, it's legal.
Yeah. And even if you can't read his handwriting. But, yeah, so that's the thing with, they're just trying to make you, you know, trick your brain.
Yeah.
And it's like you walk in there and you got all these issues and, you know, the VA sucks. Like, all my experiences with them suck. I know there's people out there that have had good, positive experiences, and that makes me extremely happy. I don't go very often just because, you know, my experiences haven't been good. They just give you a brown paper bag and it's got pill bottles in it. It's like, here, take all these.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but little things, you know, going fishing, going camping, getting on the bike, you know, that to me that's my therapy. That's what makes me happy and gets me out of the moments.
Now, like with the VA, because I would actually, when I was driving for the Metro bus for a while, for the short time I did it, and honestly I kind of did it just to get my CDL because I mean I got my permit and all that, and then they paid for the rest of it. But my route that they put me on, I literally would drop people off at the VA and then continue on and come back and all that kind of stuff. So I had a shit ton of military vets that would come on my bus, and I enjoyed talking with them. A lot of times some of them were like, yeah, I'm having to head to the VA again and all this and that. And they were you could tell they were having bad experiences. So I would try to at least alleviate a little bit of their grief of having to go there to make them feel better. And there were some of them that were like, man, I'm working at the gift shop to make it better for people and stuff like that. So you had a spectrum of people that would come in, and it was just like, oh, okay, well, that's great. But the ones that I could tell that were just like, oh, I have to go, I'm sitting there trying to crack up with them, trying to talk with them a little bit because I mean, from what I've heard over the years, the way our soldiers that have come home and the way the VA and the way the society is treating people, it's not fair to them. So if I, out of my personal day, can make somebody laugh, smile, or at least have a good 5 minutes with me, then that's what I would love to do. But as long as you walk off my bus of like, hey, thanks, man, like, it was good chatting with you, can't wait to see you next time, great.
Oh, yeah.
Because you already got a lot going through your mind of what you're about to walk to. Even if you're not a veteran, going into a hospital, you don't know what you're going to walk into because you really don't know what your diagnosis is. Or if you do, then you're going to sit there and just be like, well, fuck, I've got to deal with this again.
Yeah.
So if somebody can go in there and give you just 5 minutes out of your day to make it better, that 5 minutes means more than what just your mundane being stuck in your head can do. And that's goes right back into... talk to a vet, man. You never know what it can do.
Well, I mean, that goes with anybody in life.
It really does.
You know, now that I'm getting older, you know, I used to be kind of, you know, just stuck to myself, and I'm still don't like to break out of my shell too much, you know, and just talk to strangers, you know. But if you go to a gas station, you can tell that the clerk back there is having a bad day. Crack a joke, you know, do something just to. I mean, a lot of times you'll get looked at like you're a fucking idiot, but maybe when you leave, they'll be like, wait a minute, that was actually funny. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Man, so something that we really do love doing on this podcast,
I'm not taking my clothes off.
What do you mean? I gotta pay you back for your services somehow.
Damn it.
Something that we do like to do on this podcast that me and my wife Sage, we love doing is we love talking about movies. So,
Oh God.
yeah, and you know where I'm going to go with this, and I know the listeners are going to be like, oh, God, here we go with military movies. No, what is your favorite gay porn? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh shit. Is that Daniel Does Dallas? No, that was Debbie. Never mind.
Oh, okay. So, what is your favorite military movie? Like, what is one that you're like, I could go back and watch again and again because it's relatable enough for me to enjoy?
Well, I mean, I don't relate to this movie at all, but it's the best, of course, is Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, I fucking love Full Metal Jacket.
I mean, I guess you can kind of relate because if you just follow each character along and just see how they change and see some of the stuff they're faced with and how they react, you know, you can always pick, yeah, that was this guy, or that was this guy, or shit, that might have been me, you know.
And of course, Arlie Emery, being an actual military drill or Marine instructor, really fucking sold that. I mean,
yeah, he was damn good.
Oh yeah, and that's what made his career in acting was from that film, and it was. And like I told you the other day, in which everybody that's listening, Sage had never watched Full Metal Jacket, and I've had that in my collection forever. Stanley Kubrick, fucking just amazing film director and all, but she was watching. We were watching a movie review, and that came on, and I was like, God, that was so good. And she was just like, never seen it, and I'm like, woman, we've been together for 13 years and you've never seen this movie. She goes, no. I was like, I've had it in my collection. What the fuck? So I busted out and we watched it. And of course, if you guys have never seen it, I'm not going to try to spoil it too much, but I am definitely going to tell you, go watch it because fuck, that is so good.
Oh, yeah.
But the basic training, because it, like, almost 3/4 of the movie is just the basic training boot camp. And
it's the best part of the movie.
It really is, because you get to see individual characters and how they are reacting to it and all. The Vincent, oh God, I can't remember his name, but his first name is Vincent. He's been in a ton of other stuff. That plays at the time, no one knew what mentally challenged or mentally disabilities were. He plays that character. He does that fucking phenomenal. Yeah. And Arlie Emery, sorry, not Robert Lee. No, we're not having the South Rise again. Arlie Emery did such a great job of showing like how people of that nature would be treated in there, and the side effects, because a lot of people don't. A lot of the military doesn't release information of instructors actually having one of the most dangerous jobs of being put in those situations of training these guys that you have no idea who the fuck they are and what they're capable of until you have that moment. And I think Stanley Kubrick and Arlie Emery brought that to fruition of just their way of putting into a film.
Definitely. When I joined, you know, that was that movie. When I was raised, you know, watched it all the time. It was always playing. And so whenever I finally joined, that's what I was mentally preparing myself. I'm going to get the shit choked out of me. I'm going to get slapped. I'm going to get, you know, all this. And
which that was what my dad had. And nowadays I hear it's nowhere like that.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nothing. But, you know, like what you were saying about the drill instructors having a very dangerous job, because you're right, you have no idea what this person was doing, you know, 24 hours ago, before now they're in your control, you know, under your care, and they have to break you down to absolutely nothing and then build you back up, you know. And so try to beat the civilian out of you and try to turn you into a soldier, you know. And they've got 8 weeks to do it. And so, I mean, it's a lot of pressure. You know, they're constantly putting you under pressure. Then whenever you start going out and shooting, you know, now you've got your M16 on you all the time, and you're going out to these ranges. You're handing them live ammo, and you don't know what point they're at.
Right.
You know, they could be at that snapping point. You know, and I mean, there have been soldiers that have shot themselves in the foxhole on the range day, or shot their drill sergeants.
I have seen that on a video, and even in that movie, or no, not that movie, Heartbreak Ridge, they bring that up too, of being on the range and accidentally discharging their weapon because it jammed or there was a malfunction, and they were trying to call somebody over and it goes off.
Yeah.
So that's a real thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of these kids have never even touched a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then they get out there, they're shaking because they're kind of scared, even though they're trained on the basics of it before a live round is ever handed to them, just like you would your kid. Hey, this is the safe operation of this firearm. Don't ever point it at anybody, and anytime there's a malfunction, they just freak out,
right?
And they're like, hey, drill sergeant, and they'll turn it and aim it back towards the bleachers where all the other soldiers ready to shoot, or waiting to shoot or sitting. Or so, I mean, the drill sergeants have to be on their toes out there, especially the first few times,
Yeah, and it's not like a manager at your job or any of that. And I'm not calling you out because you're a manager at my job, but you're not my manager. But
yeah.
I mean, you're having to keep an eye on maybe 10, 15 people where they're keeping an eye on 20, where they're keeping an eye on people of anywhere from 50 to 100 to make sure that they really are on their toes, and especially at the range, you are life and death situation if somebody makes a mistake. So that's a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah. And I mean, when I was going through training, I had some really good drill sergeants, that were quick to react to little things. I never seen an incident like that, while like anybody getting shot during training. But there were some idiots that didn't know what they were doing,
right?
And they just don't think, it's just kind of like, hey, I got a lightsaber here,
Yeah, let's look down the barrel. This is your father's lightsaber.
Yes.
Oh shit.
I mean, luckily I was raised, shooting, and so yeah, I knew a little bit on how to.
At least the standard operations of holding your weapon.
Yeah, and if you're going to point it at something, it's going to die.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's where I've even taught my kids: down or away, never at somebody unless you're ready to pull.
Yep. I got my ass beat when I was very young because I got a Red Ryder BB gun for my birthday, and they would set up pop cans on the fence post, and I'd shoot them. So then I got to where that wasn't any fun, so I was shooting birds. And
you were already bloodlust.
Yeah, my grandpa beat my ass.
Oh man,
because he said we don't shoot anything unless we're gonna eat it. And then I joined the Army, and I'm like, well, you're training me to shoot people. I don't want to eat them.
I don't know. I mean, from some of the podcasts and serial killers that I've been hearing about, apparently it tastes just like pork. So
yeah.
I mean, unless and you never know. You might have been out there, and I'll never know because you won't tell me. But you might have been out there and been like, the difference between an Iraqi and an American soldier is really just the kind of food they ingest themselves. No, man. Honestly, we're gonna wrap this one up because it has been very fun. Thank you so much for coming out here.
Well, thanks for having me.
And you are a parent yourself, so
yep.
I have a joke for you because I used to do stand-up comedy. I've done it briefly, and I did pretty well. But I did come up with a military-based joke that I figured a lot of the others would like. So I realized that being a parent and being in the military is not much difference. When your old lady has become pregnant, that is your boot camp. That is your 9 months of preparing for what you're about to deal with and all that, right? And then when you have your first kid, that's your first tour. And if you have more after that, well, that becomes more tours. And God, it's so stressful. It is a lot of shit you got to deal with, and you got to make sure that you're getting through it alive yourself, but also making sure that you can complete your mission and get them out the door.
Yes.
But I will say this, that I have come to realize that if you are a person that has 5 or more kids, you're no longer a military person to me. You are now a hostile country with a small army, and I'm going to embrace you. But no, man, thank you so much. And guys, if you guys are listening to this and you got some questions, please by all means leave us a comment down below. Hit the like and subscribe if you enjoyed this conversation, because I would actually really like to have you back. And any military personnel that wants to come on here, you're more than welcome to. Just send us an email at the callingcouplepod, pod@gmail.com, and love to have you on. Love to ask you some questions and see what's going on. But man, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Oh man. Other than that, you guys stay safe out there. If you see a veteran that you're able to sit there and talk with and help out, by all means, please do it. Even if you see somebody that's not a veteran that's having a hard time, just a simple, hey, how's it going, could do a lot more than you think. Mm-hmm. But if you're out there living life, man, fuck it up, Buttercup, because you only get one, and I've said what I said, so.
Sounds good to me.
I'm
I'm going to fuck up my life.
Yeah, I'm about to go get drunk now, so. Thank you guys, and we'll see you later.